In this episode, I speak to my friend Sade Jones, the time management queen. She's going to show you how to clean up your time management habits, especially if you're someone who's always said, I wish I had more time, or I never have enough time. I wish there were more hours in the day. If that is you, this is your episode. Keep listening. If you've ever found yourself just constantly chasing your tail, feeling like you've never done enough, you never stick to your goals, you've got this endless to-do list and it just never gets done. If you find that you struggle to form new habits and stick to them, we're going to share with you in this episode the secrets to making the most of your day, to forming these new habits and setting yourself up for success to get it done. Sade is the queen of being organized, managing your time, and getting your life back on track. If you want to know more, then keep listening. Let's go to the show. Welcome to the show, Sade. Welcome back.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you again for having me.
Oh my gosh. So last time I spoke to you on the show, you were in New York. Since you've moved to Georgia, Atlanta, how has life been in the last 12 months or so since we last spoke?
Well, the great thing about moving down south is that everything was open. So, in comparison to in New York during the pandemic, everything was shut down and I was in a tiny apartment. Now I have a huge apartment and my own office, which I'm in now. And I really love it down here. The weather is nicer. I'm sure you know, being in Australia, like the weather here is also warmer. It's more space. I'm really enjoying the changing environment too. So far, so good.
Oh, I love it. And you got engaged?
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness, the wedding is coming up so soon. I can't believe it. It's like
Oh,
coming so fast, but I'm really excited. Yeah. Got engaged, moved to a new state. I started a new business. I just did like a 180. And I think we talked about this. Like it was just amazing because I just went into it, even though I was fearful, I just went into it and just, I take it day by day. I don't think too much about like where it's going because I think then you would get anxiety about it.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, girl, you've got a lot on your plate right now that like
Mhm.
a lot of people would think, how does she have time for all that?
Yeah.
But fortunately, you know a thing or two about managing time.
Yes, yes. So I am the CEO and founder of the Fire Inside, which is the name of my company where I provide time management coaching services. So it is great that I am a coach in this specific niche. As a time management coach, I really love helping high achievers, like specifically entrepreneurs, make time for all aspects of their life, not just work, but also their personal growth, their wellness, their relationships with others. Because what I've seen is when you have all of those things working well, life just becomes more free. And people would think, pretty much, I think a lot of people feel like in order to manage all of those things, they would have no free time. They would just always be so rigid and structured. And I always say to that, that's not true. And that's always the creatives usually coming to me and saying those things. And I get it. That's how I used to think too. But the more structured you are, the more you actually can have more free time because you can create it for yourself versus not scheduling anything at all and then always feeling like you're on a hamster wheel.
This is something that I definitely come across with the women I work with. It's like we all want more time. So, how do we get more time, Sade? Is it something that we can create more of? Because we all have 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a
Mhm.
week. We all have the same amount of time.
Mhm.
Where is the leeway here? Where is the room to move and change and create more time?
So this is probably going to be an answer people don't expect me to say, or maybe you would, I don't know, but I'm going to say it anyway. You have to start to do less in a day. So I think when people talk about productivity, they're like, we're going to teach you how to do more in less time. Technically, I'd rather you just do less in a similar amount of time or actually get more efficient. Because what will happen is you'll be able to create more space for free time. Like I keep stressing free time because a lot of people don't take enough breaks. And there's so many studies on we can't concentrate for too many hours throughout the day. And because of corporate culture, we've been told, oh, we can work straight on 8 hours straight, 8 to 10 hours, maybe 12 hours if you're a CEO, depending on where you work at a certain corporation, or even within your own company if you're a solopreneur. But really, our brains should not be working, steadily focused deeply for 8 hours in a day. So I'm one person who will always stress that, hey, why don't we time block our days? And I can go through what time blocking is, but why don't we give ourselves less things to do so that we can, and that less things that are more impactful, things that are actually priorities, not just a bunch of busy tasks to fill our day to make us check off on a list versus things that are actually going to move the needle in our life. So not just in our business or in our career, but within our life, because I think we need a balance of both of them.
Yeah, that's so true. And like, I mean, in a sense, I wasn't expecting you to say that, but I'm so glad you did, because that's so the way I see things too. And I literally have been going through quite a busy period for myself at the moment, where I've had additional things on top of my usual workload. And my brain just I can't make that many decisions. And
Yes.
luckily I've trained myself where even if I have a busy day, I'll just be like, okay, I need to just lie down for an hour. And I'll go lie down for an hour and do nothing. And I'll be tempted to put on a podcast to like entertain the brain for a bit more while I'm doing that. But I realize, no, my brain is so fatigued right now. I'm just going to lie down and listen to music or listen to, something very, very minimal.
Yeah. I actually have a story just like that before we move on.
Yeah.
And I was dealing with this issue, right? And it was, I don't want to get too specific, but it was around like my business taxes. And I was freaking out because I was about to miss the deadline and I did not know what I was going to do. I spent hours trying to look up, focus, do all these different things. And then I got to a point kind of similar to you where I was like, I don't know what to do. I need to take a break. I literally took a break for 5 minutes, that little. I laid on the floor in my office. Just so to paint the picture. I set a timer for 5 minutes, and no lie, in that 5 minutes, all I did was concentrate on my breath. And when at the end of that 5 minutes, I got the answer. Literally called up my accountant, told him what we were going to do, and everything worked out. Just from taking a break and stepping away versus like sitting at the computer stressing myself out.
Yeah, because we're not going to find the answers when we're in that frantic, anxious energy. This is the amazing thing. Like, I get my biggest inspiration when I'm like feeling creatively drained. I will go on a big walk and then I'll be like, idea, and it all comes to me.
Yes, it's so true.
But even as you said, like 5 minutes can be enough. Like, we don't have to take huge chunks of time. Tell us more about taking breaks. Like, is there an ideal amount of time to take in terms of a break?
Yes, so it's recommended. Studies show that you should be taking a break at least every hour and a half to 2 hours of focused work time. And it can range from 5 minutes to, an hour if that's what you'd like, but at least hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yeah. So you can't just move on from one thing to the next.
No, I actually don't recommend that. I would say I really love the Pomodoro method. If you're aware of the Pomodoro method,
I
essentially
don't know it at all. Tell us. What is the Pomodoro method?
So the Pomodoro method is when you focus in on work for about 25 minutes. You set a timer for 25 minutes and you work for 25 minutes. It can be longer if you like, but the way the method teaches is 25 minutes. And then after the 25 minutes is up, you take a 5-minute break. And then after that, you go again for another round of 25 minutes. And you do about 3 to 4 rounds of that method, and you get to an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then that's you take a longer break. And a longer break would look like 20 minutes or so. And then you can repeat the same process again and again. And it's really effective because for most people, 25 minutes is the amount of time they can deeply focus in on one task. And when I say one task, I mean, you don't have 10 tabs up, you're working on one single thing for that full 25 minutes. And usually at the 25-minute mark is when our brain starts to get idle. We want to pick up our phone, even though it's not going off. We want to walk out the room. We start to feel a little antsy. So that method works really well.
Oh, amazing. Is that the same as time blocking or is that different?
It's different than time blocking. Time blocking is more about putting almost like creating meetings on your calendar, sectioning it off, creating like, this is what I do during my morning block, which may be from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then during my afternoon block from 1 to 3. It's kind of like sectioning off your day based on whatever project or task you want to accomplish. Pomodoro method can literally, you can do this for cleaning your closet. Like you can do this for anything. Like I've had clients who have done this for little things like that. Like they like hate cleaning their apartment, and I'm like, do a Pomodoro, and they're like, no, that's not going to work. And I'm like, it is, because the gamification of the 25 minutes and that timer makes you want to take action because you don't want to lose. It's very great for people who are high achievers because you like the chase, you like the urgency behind it, and that's what it helps you to get out of that procrastination as well.
This is huge, because another thing that I always see is that, and I can be like this too, it's the I won't do it till I've got the deadline. And I won't do it, like you were saying with your thing before. It's like it was the day it was due. It's like I'm the same. Like I will smash something out if I have a deadline. But if I don't need to necessarily get around to it, I might push it back. So is this a way that we can sort of beat that part of us that, maybe from bad habits in high school, used to always like do the test or the study for the exam the night before?
Yeah, I think this is a great way to push past that procrastination because it forces you to take some action. I see people procrastinate all the time, and usually it's just some fear of failure, or it's usually a lack of clarity on what they actually need to do. So when you actually force yourself to just take some type of action, it boosts your confidence. Because if let's say you've been procrastinating on a project you really want to work on, and it really doesn't have a concrete deadline because it's based off your own deadline. And for a lot of people, they disregard their own personal deadlines, but would always listen to someone else's deadline, which is what sucks. So you have to train yourself to treat your deadlines as important. But what happens is when you do a Pomodoro, or you set a really tight deadline for yourself, and even if it's an abstract deadline, it gives you some urgency to act because you feel connected to it. And then once you've done it for, let's say, 25 minutes and you saw some success, or even if you just you were supposed to write a blog article and you at least got the outline done, it just feels more achievable at that point. You're like, oh, I got somewhere. I want to keep going. Or maybe I want to step away, but then I want to schedule it in to do it tomorrow because I had so much success today.
Yes. Yeah, I hear you. I think that point about training yourself to prioritize your own deadlines, that's huge. How do you work with people in that area?
So way my framework and my coaching program is set up, it's actually funny because when my clients come to me, they just want to get going with a schedule. Like my programs are typically 3 months because I've seen in 90 days you can really shift your habits versus anything less. So when they come to me like, all right, I'm ready to change my schedule. Let's work on my schedule. And I'm like, no, you're not ready to do that yet. You have to work on you. First of all, you have to get very clear on where your time is going. Because when people come to me, they always think, oh, I spend 20 minutes doing this and maybe an hour doing this. And then when we actually have them go through the auditing activities that I provide, they realize, oh, shoot, I spent like 3 hours just on email. And I'm like, yeah, you did, because people are not conscious of their time. Everyone underestimates how long something's going to take them. Almost, even myself, I've gotten really good at it because of the nature of what I do. And I've trained myself, but it took time. It had to become a habit. So we start off with getting very clear on where you're at. Then we have to set your goals and your benchmarks. This is a big step people miss because they're like, I just want more time. I will literally not coach anyone who doesn't have the benchmarks. Like, you need to know how much more time you want to save. What do you want to do with that time? Why is that important to you? How are you going to track that you're getting to where you want to be? You can't just join this program and then say at the end, hey, I didn't save more time because I have no record of how I did it. That's not what we're about to do. So after we do that step, then we start to work on how can you build healthy habits? And then I teach my habit method. Once people can understand how to build healthy habits, then when I'm teaching them things like, this is how you prioritize, this is how you set up a schedule, this is how you time block, this is how you batch your work, then they're like, oh, I know how to implement those things because I've already been taught how to implement a habit and actually do it consistently. That's the piece that people lose out on and come to me and they're like, I just could never do anything consistently. And I'm like, okay, we have to train you. And it takes weeks. I have clients go through these tracker systems that I have for weeks on end. And then at the end of it is when they're like, oh, wow, look at how much I've grown, because you have to have those benchmarks. You have to track yourself along the way. That's one way that people really become consistent.
That's amazing. So it is just like really showing up for yourself, I suppose, in a whole new way. What do you
keeping track of it?
Yeah. What do you
Mhm.
see really kind of blocks people? Because everyone wants more time, and there'll be people listening to this right now who are like, yeah, I want more time. And oh, that Pomodoro method thing sounds great. I might try doing that. But
Mhm.
what are some of those reservations or blocks that people can start to be aware of in themselves that actually stop us from really making progress on this? So turning that just like desire for this into actual reality. Like it's not just I want more time. It's like how do we actually make that happen for ourselves? What are the
Yeah,
blocks?
I think people put it off like anything else. It just doesn't feel super important enough where like it's almost like people wait until disaster strikes before they want to take action versus being proactive with it. If you're noticing that on a weekly basis, you're burnt out. But when, and I hear this, and it's almost like normalized in our community or our society that every Friday, oh man, I can't wait for the weekend. I'm so exhausted. I barely made it through the day. And every week you feel like that. You're exhausted. You have all of these tasks that you're supposed to get done that get moved to Monday because Friday's not a real work day. If you feel like you're in that, that rut and you're managing, or if you feel like, all right, I'm managing work pretty well, but my personal life is crap. Like it's all over the place. I'm always late. I don't know what I'm doing at this time on Saturday. I just feel like I'm all over the place. I barely see my spouse or my kids, or I barely take time to work out or prioritize healthy eating or going to the grocery store and actually spending some time intentionally picking up what I'm going to put in my body. If you don't have time to really take care of yourself holistically and you see the effects it has on your body and you're not okay with it, and that's when you know, okay, let me take some action towards time management. And I think a lot of people don't know that that's what's holding them back. Sometimes they think it's just um, other factors like their skill set, or they start to not believe in themselves. And that's another thing that shows up a lot when I'm coaching. But a lot of it can just be you never were taught the fundamentals of how to manage your time really well. And none of us were. I mean, I don't remember learning that in school. I just happened to be an organized person. I don't remember a time when I wasn't. So
Yeah.
that's just something I was always into. And then in college, I had to be organized because I had to juggle a lot of different things. I worked, I went to class, and I was trying to, make sure I had a career after school. So I was in a lot of extracurriculars. So just being really busy, I had to teach myself how to manage to my time. And then when I got into the corporate world, I became a side hustler, and I had multiple different businesses I was starting while working a 9 to 5. So I also, once again, started taking productivity courses. I trained myself. I read all these books. But a lot of us don't do that. We get out and we're just like, whatever I can get done is what I get done for the day. And then we kind of sell ourselves short. And people come to me and with this mindset of, I know I want to do more. I just don't know how. And, I'm really scared about making investments because that's another thing people are not taught. That we're not taught how to invest in ourselves and how to actually grow our money. And a lot of that can tie to how well you're spending your time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think those are just some of the main blocks that I've seen people approach me with.
Definitely. And so, really, we can believe that there's something inherent within ourselves that can't be
Hmm.
changed. It's like, I'm just
Yeah.
not an organized person. I mean, see,
Hmm.
I identify as being an organized person. I do enjoy a plan and knowing where I'm
Hmm.
going. However, my fundamental flaw with time management, and it's ironic because I was 10 minutes late for our podcast interview right now.
Yeah.
The irony did not escape me, Sade. Um, I'm always that little like, there's something in me that I've read a quote somewhere that I gleefully took. It was like, well, I'm just more optimistic with time. Late people are more optimistic with what we can fit into time. What do you have to say to that?
So people always they tend to underestimate how long things take them. So I always, when people come to me and they're like, yeah, I'm just optimistic about it. I know I can get this done in 5 minutes or less. Probably not. I always say overestimate how long you think something's going to take you. I'd rather you give yourself 45 minutes and take 15 and then, reallocate that time than tell yourself, I'm going to take 15 and then take 45.
Yeah.
It's way better to overestimate so that you, once again, are giving yourself less things, but they're more impactful and you're giving yourself the space to get them done.
Mm, I love that because that is just such a common one, and certainly in my world, is it's I will often overestimate. Sorry, underestimate how much
Underestimate.
things will take me,
Yeah,
and
it's
try to
so
squeeze
normal.
everything in. Yeah.
Everyone does that. Like it's just normalized in our community. It's what we've seen others do. So we just kind of, continue on with the cycle.
Yeah. Okay. And where do you see us draining a lot of our time needlessly? Where are we losing it? Where's it going down the drain?
It really depends on the person, but I would say generally it's digital distractions. Especially, I think the pandemic heightened that. Being home and being forced to be home more, a lot of us are looking for an escape. And the easiest way to get that is on our phones, on our computers, looking up things, watching movies on Instagram. And these apps, and I'm someone who worked in advertising, so I know how these apps are designed, right? Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, they're made to show you, it's curated to show you exactly what they know you're interested in. So they sync up all, I don't want to go too in depth, but they do sync up with what you search. For instance, I'll give a good example. I'm, getting married. So I'm looking up wedding things all the time. So sometimes when I go on Instagram, the first post will be like something that's to do with the wedding. And it will always grab me in. It'll either be something like that or, someone else that I'm friends with just had a big life change or they just posted. Instagram knows to show you those things because automatically, even if you just went on Instagram to answer a DM, say for business, and then you get sucked in, next thing you know, you're swiping, 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 and you look up and you're like, crap, my lunch hour is over. I just thought I was on Instagram for 5 minutes. That's one place where I see people, because they don't set up boundaries around their digital distractions or their digital consumption. I should say, I don't want to just say distractions because sometimes you go on there and you do productive things, but that's where I see people get sucked in. Or even the way Netflix is set up now, where they'll drop a whole season, not an episode. Remember when we used to watch TV episode by episode and we had to wait a week?
It
No,
seems
now
like such a thing of the past, like to have to wait a week for the next episode.
yeah, you're like, no, this is just like, I get to watch everything. It's like a long movie. That's also stripping away your time. If you're watching, like, what was the big Squid Games and you're watching it all in one night, instead of breaking it up, that's a lot of time. I don't want to say getting wasted, but you're not really utilizing to the best of your abilities.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so true. So,
Yeah.
how do we fight against that urge to keep, these things are very well designed, as you said, to trigger our brain, our dopamine response, to trigger us to
Mhm.
kind of want to keep watching, and keep scrolling. What can we do, Sade, to kind of counteract that? Is it just being aware?
So, yes, the first step I would say is being aware, being conscious of how much time you're actually spending on these apps. So one thing I'll have clients do is we'll look in the settings of their phone. And if you have an iPhone, I know you can do this. For other phones, I don't know. But on an iPhone, you can look and see how much you're consuming on a daily basis. So we'll look at what are the top, in your screen time, what are the top apps that you're on? How long are you typically on them? And that could be messages, Google, whatever you're spending your time on. Once you know where you're at, then once again, I'm going to say it, set benchmarks, right? Set goals for how much time you actually want to spend on it. Let's say you're spending 6 hours on Instagram in a day. That's a long time. Like we were saying, you have 24 hours in a day. If you sleep 8 of them, you have 16 left. Now imagine spending 6 of the 16 just on Instagram. So if you want to spend less, I would recommend then, all right, now that you know your boundary, set up app limits on your phone because you can actually set up limits where it'll remind you, get off the app. Or set up blocks of time on your calendar. It may sound silly to some, but I literally looking at my calendar right now. I have times where I say, this is your Instagram time. Like this is when you're going and engage. This is when you're going to go and post. And I'll actually set a timer when I'm about to go on these platforms. I am always one to talk about timers because I think it keeps you conscious of time. Like it's like when you're cooking and you don't want to overdo it. You're like, let me set a timer for an hour because if I don't, the chicken's gonna get dry.
Yeah.
Like it's very important. You almost have to take that same concept with your life. For every block of of a task that you want to do, set a timer with it to keep you conscious. That also builds the habit of understanding and being more conscious of your time because for many of us, like we were saying, we're just not. And in order to make it stick, we have to practice it.
I really like how it does end up being a reminder to be conscious in general, right? To be here in the now. this time, these 5 minutes are precious, and you can
Mm-hmm.
squeeze the juice out of those 5 minutes, or you could just
Yes.
idly let them wander by in that autopilot zone that we all sort of zone out into.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's really, really cool. I do have a few people in mind who I've worked with who I know will do things like this, where they set reminders, but
Mm-hmm.
then they get in the habit of ignoring their own reminder because the app limit will come up, or the, reminder to do a meditation will come up, but or the reminder to go to bed at a certain time, that's a big one, will come up. And there's just this habit of ignoring it and letting it go by. Is that something that you ever see in people, Sade?
Yes, absolutely. Especially when I have clients start setting up morning and night routines for themselves. It's so funny. They go into it so optimistic. They're just like, yes, I can't believe I finally have this routine. I help them craft it. It matches their lifestyle. It's the things they've always wanted to do in the mornings, the way they've always want to end their day. And then our second meeting, they're like, they almost don't want to show me their tracker because I have them track it. They're like, I don't know, and I'm like, let me see it. And then I see it, and it's like, okay, I had a good Monday, but then I kind of fell off Tuesday. Wednesday didn't go so well. I didn't know about, and it's just, you see that it gets worse and worse and worse. And then I always tell them, this is exactly what I knew was going to happen. You are not the only one. When you do something for the first time, it's probably not going to go as you thought it would. The thing is, you have to build up the discipline to keep doing it. So this is where accountability and self-discipline comes into play. And there are techniques for these things, but for the purpose of like summing it all up, it really comes down to, are you actually tracking your growth over time? Are you showing up for yourself? If you every day are, ignoring the app limits, maybe you need to do something that doesn't let you ignore it. So there's this really great app called Freedom, for instance, that I have clients use. Yeah, I think it's a couple dollars a month or so, but it's worth it because what it does is it'll shut down your apps at a certain time and you literally cannot log out. Like you can't just, it doesn't let you go back into them. It blocks it completely. So if you have to go that extreme, there are tools where you can do that. But I do believe that if you set up your self-discipline and your habits the right way, you'll eventually build it in time on your own. Or this is the point where if you keep, failing yourself in the instance where you keep, turning your reminders off, consider hiring a coach. Like, it doesn't have to be me. I don't want you to think, I'm pitching myself, for instance, but really think about hiring a coach, because this is what we specialize in. And someone like me who's a time management coach can guide you through these things, because sometimes when we're ignoring things over and over again, there's something else going on that may be affecting us. So I'll give an example of it. I had a client, she just kept missing her bedtime at night. And she was just like, I don't get it, why? Like, I'm doing the night routine, but then I just have all this burst of energy at night. And it's like, I can't go to sleep at the time I said. So I asked her, what are you drinking at night? When's your last coffee of the day? And also, what are you consuming food wise? And she happened to be eating like all of these fruits and vegetables like really late at night. And it was spiking her insulin. So she was just like wired at a certain time instead of winding down at a certain time. And it was something that simple where we said, okay, you're just going to move up the time when you're eating these things. We're going to move up the time when you have your last like tea of the day. And those shifts helped her to be able to go to sleep at the time she wanted to go to sleep. So sometimes it's different factors that you wouldn't be conscious of without having someone outside help you to see it.
Yeah. And I think that outside awareness can be so helpful, because it's almost like we have to expect the failures, but when we're on our own, it's really hard to do that. And then we reinforce the old identity of like, oh no, I am just bad with time. And I do just never have time. And my life is just endless chaos.
Yeah, those are the worst things that people identify as. Like, it's so funny. It's almost like when people identify as something, they're reinforcing that belief. So if you come to me and you're like, I'm just so bad at time, I'm so bad at time, I'm going to be the coach like, no, we need to reframe that belief. We need to come up with something new, and you need to start saying it to yourself, because you're always going to be self-sabotaging by having those beliefs that you hold on so dearly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious about this Freedom app. Can you go back into, so because you could like set it for like from I don't know, 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. completely blocked out of it.
And
And
Yeah.
maybe like 9 p.m. onwards as well, because you don't want to look at your app before bed. Let's say you
Yeah.
set it like that. Can you go back into the app and then change it?
Yeah. Well, you set the parameters for it.
Yep. Is
Yeah. So
there an option of like giving the password, like equivalent of giving someone else the key so that you've got that extra accountability?
you could do that. If you have an accountability partner or a coach and you want to give me the login and literally I have my own password and I lock you out of being able to change it, you can totally do that.
Yeah, interesting. But
Yeah.
hopefully we wouldn't need to resort to those extremes. But hey, it could
Yes.
work. Just reset the habits.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want, some people like doing extreme challenges. I'm one of those people where when I'm trying to build a new habit, I like to go all in with it for at least like a month and just go extreme and then gradually intertwine it into a lifestyle. But some
Yeah.
people, they need to just gradually intertwine it instead of going all in. So it really depends on the personality. I've done it both ways with clients.
And I see this often too. It's like we want to change every habit all at once. Like I've got to change all of it. If I'm going to start speaking more kindly to myself, I've also got to start, overhauling my diet and exercising every day and and it's like,
No.
we can't do that, can we?
No, I don't ever recommend that. I always tell clients, like, let's start small. Even so, one common one I see, maybe this is just common for high achievers, they want to work out and they want to start, like you said, they want to start going 4 or 5 days throughout the week for an hour. And I'm like, you haven't worked out in 5 months. Like, we're not going to start there. I'm like, let's just get you to a place where you put on the workout clothes, you have them planned out, and you just walk into the gym. You don't even have to work out. You just go to the gym. You physically go. And then if you decide you want to work out while you're there, you do it. And then maybe the next step is, okay, the next day you're going to go and work out for 10 minutes. And the next day you're going to work out for 20 minutes. And then you're going to take a break. Then next week you're going to go for 30 minutes. Or maybe you're going to hire a trainer because you realize you don't know what the heck you're doing in the gym. But we're building off these small little habits and we're getting to where we want to be. You don't just, go full throttle because then you'll burn out really quickly and it won't become a lifestyle change.
Yeah. And I really think it's that all or nothing mentality that we
Mm-hmm.
have to rise above, because
Yeah.
you have to see it's not a problem with you as a person that you haven't stuck to that thing in the past, or that you do your like you get really into your workouts for a week and then it peters off. It's not like there's a
Right.
problem with you. It's your approach, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we're not robots. And when people come to me, they think, okay, you're going to turn me into this perfect person. I'm going to become the master of my time management at all points of every day, of every minute. And I'm always like, no, not even I am perfect because I'm not a robot. Unfortunately, we're all human, right? No, not unfortunately, but I'm joking. But I always say it's better for you to just try to get to 90%. If you can get to a 90% where you're proud of yourself and you have that leeway of 10, you'll feel much better because you're not trying to get to 100. You're not trying to get to this perfect place. You're just trying to do it more times than not. If you're doing it more times than not, you're already winning and you're on your way to that 90%.
Yeah. And we have to acknowledge what we like what we do
Yeah.
get done when we are doing it right. Because I think that's another
Mm-hmm.
huge one where people kind of trip themselves up.
Yeah,
It's
because our
like,
brains are wired to see that negative. So we always want, that's why I stress tracking it. Like I sell trackers on my site, even because I just like, I've seen how important it is to track it because it's that mindfulness of, let me take a moment to see how far I've come.
yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't see your wins. When you actually see them, then you're more motivated. Oh wow, I've actually been doing this for 3 weeks. I think I could do a fourth week, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And you start to shift and see, I am this person now that does this. And
Yeah.
look, I show
Mm-hmm.
up for myself. Because I've always thought I used to say that to myself, like, oh, I never really follow through. I've never really completed something. And then I just decided, no, that doesn't help me. I'm gonna damn well be the girl that gets it done.
Yeah,
Just
and
change.
whatever happened yesterday does not dictate tomorrow. And I think a lot of us hold on to past, habits. You can literally change your entire life tomorrow if you wanted to. Is it very hard? Yes. Don't expect it to be simple or easy, but whatever happened, even what happened an hour ago, doesn't dictate your day. So I say that because another common thing I see is if, let's say we set up a schedule, me and a client, and the morning doesn't go how they want it to go. Next thing I know, they're like, well, I messed up the morning. I might as well sabotage my afternoon, my night. It's just going to lead into the next day. No, you can absolutely change your mindset. You can change, how you spend the rest of your day. and you can
Yeah,
shift and adapt and pivot how you need. You don't have to, self-sabotage based off one thing going wrong.
I love that. And final words to just hone in that point about doing less
Mhm.
in this time management to create more freedom. What would you say to just convince our people who might have forgotten what you were saying at the start about we got to do less?
Yeah. So I'll briefly go through a framework that I give people when they want to schedule or get better at scheduling their days. I always say to pick a consistent day throughout the week where you're just going to write everything down, get it all out. Like, what do you want to get accomplished this week? Just get it all out. Once you have it all out, I want you to go back in and actually circle what would be the most impactful, what aligns with your goals that you're set for this month, because people will set goals in January and they will never look at their goals again. That it wasn't really an important goal to you then, So look back and see, okay, what aligns with my goals that's on this list? What would make me happy that's on this list? Like, what are the forms of self-care that I want to get done this week? And then you go ahead and just schedule those things into your calendar. And I always like to go with the rule of threes, where I don't give myself more than about 3 larger tasks per day, but that really varies on the person and what they do in their schedule. But make sure that you're not giving yourself too much work in a day. So try to give yourself maybe 4 hours of really focused time and then 4 hours of less focused time. So meaning I'll give myself 4 hours to work on a deep project, and then another 4 hours. And in that 4 hours, it'll be meetings, emails, on Instagram, maybe going live, like things that are more interactive. And I'm an extrovert, so I get energy from people. So I'll always set those things up for a certain amount of time. And then make sure you give yourself at least 2 to 3 hours of free time to relax, cook dinner, connect with someone that doesn't have anything to do with work. I think those are things that people think are luxuries, but should be done on a daily basis. So I would always recommend just that kind of layout. And on a daily basis, just checking in on, what's getting done, what's realistic for the next day. I think your day starts the night before, not the morning of. And I think that's something people, they jump into their mornings like, what do I want to accomplish today? But if you could just spend 10 minutes every night looking at what you want to accomplish tomorrow, you'll see that you'll get more done. And then
Yeah.
just don't overpack it. I'll say that again, give yourself less time, less tasks to do, because then you'll be able to actually accomplish the things that you put on there, which will lead to you actually getting more done. It may not feel like it because you're like, oh my God, I'm used to doing 10 things in a day, but it's way better for you to do less, because then you'll actually accomplish what you set out to do. And then in a month's time, you'll have way more done.
That's so true. And this is how we avoid burning out and like
Mhm.
leading to the places where we then fight back or we sabotage or we
Yeah.
rebel because we're like, oh, I'll just, I'm so exhausted right now. I'm going to stay up another hour watching TV because I need that time for myself. And it's like, if you just gave yourself that time earlier, you would
Mhm.
actually go to bed and get a good bed routine. Yeah.
Yes, and sleep is so important. So, so
It
important. I
is.
talk about sleep all the time. You need it. I'm sure you talk about it too. Like, you need sleep. If you're one of those people who are like, oh, I can live off 5 hours of sleep, you can.
Yeah.
No one can.
No one can, honestly, unless you want to, get sick eventually. That's the other
Exactly.
where we're heading. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, Sade, I want to keep chatting to you, but I've got to let you go. Tell me, where can we find you? Where can people find your work? And you mentioned you've got those trackers as well that you have on
Nice, nice.
offer.
Yes. So you can find me on my website, which is thefireinsidesade.com. Or you can also find me on Instagram at Sade Jones underscore. And Sade is SADE and then Jones underscore. Those are the best places to find me. So if you have any questions or want to connect, you can simply DM me. I have one-on-one coaching services that I also offer, as well as digital products and 90-minute intensives.
Incredible. I'll make sure all that information is in the show notes so everyone can find it nice and easily. Thank you so much. What a powerful, powerful chat. So many gems of wisdom, Sade. I know everyone's going to be messaging me about this episode saying like, oh my God, I've never thought of doing that before. So thank you for
Awesome.
sharing that. You're just saving everyone so much time.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm always happy to share about these things. I geek out over these things. So thank you for having me again.
Thank you. Now, if you've listened to my recent episodes over the last few months, you'll know I've been hard working away on building and creating new content for you, new lessons and trainings to help support you in becoming an anxiety master. For the very first time, access is available for you to sign up and join the Anxiety Masters membership. This is where month by month, we're going to be meeting on live calls. I've got live group coaching, live workshops that I'll be running with themes every month. We're going to be covering things beyond just the Anxiety Reset program. We're going to go even deeper, delving into that space of mastery, that ongoing support, ongoing practice, repetition, reminders, a space to check in, a space to feel like you're understood. You know, this self-development journey can be a bit lonely sometimes when you've noticed the people around you are not on your level, they're not doing their inner work, and it can be so frustrating. This is the space where people get you, where we're gonna celebrate taking it slow, going for your big dreams that everyone around you might think you're crazy for pursuing. We're gonna celebrate the times where you take a break and you let yourself rest, celebrating moments where you enjoy life, really getting present and building a life that is meaningful, satisfying, and fulfilling to you. When we live in this way, our experience of anxiety is much less frequent, much less intense, because we're living in alignment with ourselves. We are bringing our life into balance on all levels, mind, body, and soul. That is what this space is for, and I'm just so excited to have something to offer where we can all keep in touch, keep working together. I'll be speaking with you, working with you on these live calls. We're going to have monthly breathwork classes too, breathwork healing meditation sessions led by our amazing New Zealand-based instructor, Mary. She is such a beautiful energy to be around. You'll feel healed just being in her presence. There's an exclusive new meditation library with fresh 10-minute meditations for you, and we're going to have special events and so much more. If you know in your heart you already want to join the Anxiety Masters membership, then jump into the link in the show notes. You'll be able to see everything about it there. This is a beautiful way to dip your toe into the water of this work, or continue moving forward on your healing journey if you've already worked with me in the past. Now, for those who want the intensive experience, you want to go through everything, you want to leave no stone unturned, 90 days of working with the Anxiety Reset method, then the program is for you. The Anxiety Reset program is also now available. You get 3 months access to Anxiety Masters, the membership, to have that live experience as well as you go through the program. The program is the space to dive deep, to really nut out the core root causes of your anxiety and get to the bottom of it. Each week we work with a component of your mindset, your physical body, your physical health. We work through gut health, nutrition, hormones. All of it is in the Anxiety Reset program. So if you're totally new to this work, you might like to start with the membership, dip your toe in the water, find out what I'm all about, work with me live, join those live workshops. But if you want the full experience and learn everything there is to know in one space, this is like doing your degree in becoming an anxiety master, then join the Anxiety Reset program. You'll have access to the Masters membership too. And for those who've worked with me already, come join us in the membership. That is the space to continue our work, continue the support. Now I have a way to keep working with you, and I'm so excited to get started. All the information is in the show notes, and I'm excited to work with you if this feels like something you're being called to. The bottom line is, no matter what option you choose, you will become an anxiety master.